Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of NextGen Talks. Women's Day is just around the corner and we thought that what could be a better way to celebrate this big day than to bust some myths around the women working in the field of tech and leadership. I am Sanjana Goel, working as a software engineer at Intuit.
Hey everyone, I'm Taniya. I'm also working as a software engineer at Intuit.
So today we have with us Nivedita Nayak, working as a principal engineer with GTM Tech at Intuit, and Jharna Thammaiah, Intuit India Director, HRBP and PNP Site Leader, who has been recently awarded with Bill Campbell Coach Award. Very warm welcome to both of you once again. So Jharna and Nivedita, you both have been an epitome for the women in the field of tech and leadership, and you have been superheroes without a cape. And we know that our audience would be as excited as we are to know about your experiences in your respective domains and how your journey has been so far. So,
thank you. Thanks, Sanjana, and thanks, Taniya, for having us over. I think it's lovely to be here today. And, it's a fantastic topic to talk about, but I think you're calling us superheroes and making us feel really special. Thank you for that. I think I maybe will just start by saying that just having a journey of growing and learning and just getting into leadership roles and experiencing that in itself has been so wonderful. And over my years of experience that I've had.
Thank you, Sanjana and Taniya. We are all superheroes. Thank you for the kind words. So I am here where I am today. Like Jharna said, one part of it is experience and one part of it is also the people around us. People around us have a huge role to play in shaping us, providing us a timely feedback and ensuring that whatever we do is for the greater good. And that's how my journey has evolved. It's been 13 years for me in tech, but it's one place where I've learned a lot, where I've had great experiences. And tech is a fast evolving space. So keeping up with latest tech means that we need more time, but then the time can only happen with the support of everybody around me.
Yeah. And I think both of you have called out one thing which is in common, that it's not always the upside that you observe, right? It's always the downside also. So would you want to talk about any challenges or something that you've come across? I'm sure that there would have been plenty of those. So how did you overcome those challenges, or are there any women visionaries who inspire you the way you inspire us today? So would you want to talk about that?
You want to start first?
Oh yeah, the biggest challenge for me was joining after my maternity break, and that is when it was almost the first wave of pandemic, and I was joining after a 6 months break. It was really hard for me to keep a tab on what was going on. It felt like everything was all over, and when I was working, I was thinking of the baby when I was with the baby and thinking about the work. But then there were a couple of mentors that I had, and they gave me some useful tips. Write down whatever you can think of. So at any point in time, if I felt lost, I could go back and refer my notes. So that really helped me. And I did have good support system. It could be my tech leads or it could be my managers. They really helped me. They're like, you can take time off whenever you need. Be there for your family. And we will take care of everything on the work front. So they did provide me that cover. They did provide me that assurance that everything is going to be okay. And whenever I needed time off, or whenever I needed anything, any support, they were always there for me, and it guided me in all the right ways. So I'm really grateful for all the great leaders I've had.
For me, my journey has been not really in the tech space myself. Like, I don't have a technology background. I have a human resources background. But I've always been working in the tech industry. So the organizations that I work with were always in the tech industry. And the human resources function, I think back then, now I think we have a good balance of diversity. But when I started off, and I'm not going to tell you how many years ago, but yeah, when I started off, I think the human resources function was pretty heavy on women in terms of diversity. So I didn't really feel out of place within my function. But when I interacted with my stakeholders, my business stakeholders, leaders, they were largely male dominated. So it was a different experience then. So when I go back in time, I think that has also shaped me, because very early on in my career, I possibly didn't have an environment which was as balanced as it is today. So it was different. And since you, Sanjana, asked about challenges, right? I think for me, I maybe won't give examples, but I will give you themes because they stand out for me. Every time I reflect back on my journey, there are themes that stand out, and those are basically assumptions I think people used to make, generic assumptions. But they have shaped me as well, because now I know what I shouldn't be doing for sure. One of the assumptions that was there throughout my early stages of my professional journey was that women in working women, for women the assumption was always that, okay, you are working because you need to have a job. You possibly want to keep yourself occupied, but you want to have a light job so that you can balance it out. It was never about women having a career. And there's a big difference between working and having a career, or having an environment where people understand that women might want to have careers. So I think that was an assumption, and that led to a lot of challenges, because at every stage, personal, professional, social, I think there is an assumption, underneath assumption, that it's not about a career but just about working. The other assumption that I have dealt with, which shows up in challenges, is that for women, money doesn't matter as much. But maybe for a male counterpart or a colleague, it matters, because the assumption was that men have to run families and they have commitments, various kinds of commitments. But maybe for women, it's just about just earning to keep yourself occupied or financially independent. But money doesn't matter as much as it matters to men. And the third assumption, pretty similar to like a challenger assumption, was, and I think it's very different today. Very different, but I experienced it, is the period when you're on your pregnancy break. And I remember speaking to Nivedita about this. I think there was an assumption back then that when you're on a pregnancy break or you've taken time off, it's assumed that your level of performance will be different than when you're not in that zone. And it felt very unfair back then, and if it happens anywhere now, it feels very unfair. But I think these are three things that come up for me, which were assumptions made by people around you, but it shows up as challenges. And I'm glad things are changing now.
Yeah, and I think that's where we are here today to bust some of these myths which you have come across, which have been prevalent in the society. So
that is something, taking back from what you said. You mentioned the assumptions, right? So something that is common, I think, all across the panel. We must have experienced some myths, some stereotypes that must have been going around, and it might not be like a serious thing. It might just be like some joke or just a comment someone makes, and they're like, oh, it's all in good humor. But we've all experienced that, and I think it's high time now that we stop giving motivation to those myths. And today is, and what better occasion than Women's Day, right? We can just go ahead, we can bust some of these myths, and that's what we're here to do today. So we'll be starting with our first myth, which will be for Jharna, and it's a leadership myth. So it is, I am sure you've heard this sometime, that women are not as good leaders as men. And we also have statistics to support the statement, where in the Economic Times surveys, around 62% of the women professionals express that female representation in their organization in top leadership tier is insignificant. So this is what Economic Times survey has said. So you want to share any experiences, or where you have seen this myth, or you have experienced this, or anything like that?
One, I think, is definitely a myth. And I don't think I want to bring gender into leadership, because I don't think we should be stereotyping. Leadership is something that we develop, we can learn, we can evolve, and both men and women could be equally good at leadership. I think that's what I'd say. This is almost like saying that men can't cook, while the world's best chefs are men. So I think it's being stereotyped for sure. So for me, definitely it's a myth. And I think women do have some traits which are very innate. Nurturing, caring, resilience. Those are innate traits that possibly all of us as women have, which is important for leadership. But beyond that, I think it's an equal share. Men are equally good leaders as women can be. It can be learned, it can be developed. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I think that summarizes it all very well. So another myth which you both would definitely be knowing, as since you both are working women, that women, be it in irrespective of which domain they work with, be it tech or leadership, but they, sometimes they struggle to maintain a work-life balance, juggling between their work and office, because the ideal expectation which is set by the society is that women are supposed to take care of home, right? So sometimes women express that, they struggle to maintain a work-life balance. And in fact, there was a survey which was conducted by women in tech, which, showed that around 72% of women feel that, they struggle to, maintain this work-life balance. So Nivedita, we would like to have your thoughts, since you've also expressed that you also had faced this challenge, while coming back from a maternity break. So how did you, tackle this challenge?
Firstly, work-life balance is not a woman-specific problem. There's nothing gender-specific about it. Who has work-life balance? But honestly, work-life balance is so much upon us as well. With the kind of work that we all have, our work gives us flexibility. It means that sometimes when things are difficult on the family front or personal front, we can take time off or we can take few hours away from work, and I'm sure our leaders and the team will definitely support us. And there will also come phases with work where work itself can have ups and downs. But then it gets tricky when both family as well as the work situation becomes demanding. And this is where we must talk to our managers and we must talk to our teams. And if we don't speak about it, nobody knows what's happening with us. So it's important to speak up. It's important to ask for support. Important to ask for help when needed. And one of my tech leads gave me a very good feedback. You should always know what you must do. It's not about what you can do. You might be able to do everything, but that's not how you scale. Figure out only the things that you must do, which is on a priority basis. And then focus on completing those first. And use others as much as possible. Delegate as much as possible. Get help. It could be on the family front. It could be at the office front. Going back to one of my previous managers had to say, trust but validate. Trust your team. Trust your leaders. Trust your mentors. But at the same time, always have a validation phase in whatever everybody else is doing, right? So at Intuit, we have a nice model called AC model. So you know what you are driving, you know what you are approving, you know what you are contributing. So most of our time should be spent in what we are driving. So this model has really helped me a lot. Nevertheless, I would like to say things are hard when we don't get the needed support at office or we don't get the needed support on the house front. It's easier said than done. Not everyone gets the level of support at work or the level of support on the house front. But everybody has to figure out what works out for them. Be vocal, ask for help wherever needed, be it on the work front or be it on the house front. That's the only way we can scale. We can try to do everything ourselves. We can try to be on top of everything, but that's not scalable over time. Sometimes it might be our own insecurities that we want to do so many things on our own, but that's not scalable. That will definitely cause burnout. So, long story short, figure out what you must do and only do what you must do, and get help wherever needed, be it on the work front or on the house front.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point, and which is not just specific to women. It is also, it's gender agnostic. And I believe that I've heard similar thing Jharna was mentioning about in our previous interaction when we had those follow me homes, that, you don't have to take control of all the things, because anyways, you also have 24 hours in a day. So it's, that you have to identify the important things, which you need to take care of. So I think, you rightly put that out.
Yeah, I think my takeaway would be like trust and validate. That is something I feel like everyone, irrespective of gender, needs to follow. And definitely that would be my takeaway from this time.
Prioritize yourself. It is you who can do wonders on the work front or on the house front. So you should be the first priority.
Wear your own oxygen mask.
That's the first time I'm hearing of your own oxygen mask. That is something that I think we all need to follow. So the second myth that we have is, I think because you both leaders, you've all experienced working with men and at higher leadership level, people have a myth that women lack in building strong professional relationship with people.
Again, I think I'd hate to stereotype this. I think it's gender agnostic, and I feel like there's a personal element to this. It's there is networking that as professionals that we need to do, and there's also a personality. It's who you are, right? And again, there, I don't think we should bring gender in. So it's definitely a myth to answer that first piece. To me personally, how it's shown up, and I'll be a little vulnerable here, that I haven't been great at networking professionally, and through the many years, again, I'm not going to say how many years, but through the many years, I've just changed my perspective about this. I've often been pushed by my mentors, my coaches, or my managers to, go out there and network because this is good. So I understood it from a different perspective that this was important. But personally, as a person, I found that I've always been awkward. Like, I go into these networking sessions and I feel like I'm putting up a different persona there. And earlier on in my career, right? And I would feel awkward. And sometimes it would be a room full of majority of men. Then I'm like, you have to engage yourself in a conversation. And this is many years ago. So I've had those moments of feeling very, very awkward, wanting to just run away from that scene, often shying away and like running away from these, opportunities. But then I think I've changed my narrative, because at a point in time I was like, I don't like this, I don't want to do this. But then I think as I grew in my career and as I experienced different situations, I think my perspective around this has changed. That when you are in the professional space, sometimes you need to do it for your team, or you need to do it for your company. Sometimes you need to do it for yourself as well. So today my narrative is very different about this. The way I look at it is, what do I like? What do I enjoy? So I personally really enjoy building relationships, building deeper connects, connection, nurturing those relationships in the professional space. That is very energizing to me, and it comes very naturally to me as well. And I think sometimes when I reflect, that's one of my strengths. Like, anyone I meet, and I think if there is a connect, I can go on investing on that, and there's something that I take back as well. So that's my strength. So the way I look at networking today is that if there is a connection, if there is a common space, if there is something that brings two of us together, that is where I'd invest. And that's the kind of investment that I would make into networking. I think I still shy away from, I don't find it valuable for myself to go into bigger forums where I don't know what's happening. But that's my narrative. For me, these personal relationships, both internal into it and beyond, works. And I look at that as a space so I think it's a balance between authenticity and intentionality. I think I'm trying to be authentic to myself, but I'm also being intentional about where it serves me or serves my team or serves into it in this case.
Yeah, that is something I also relate. I think I shy away from situations, but then there is I need to network. I need to network for my team. I need to put myself out there, not be in my comfort zone. So I think that when you mentioned that, where you get awkward with situations, I think I could definitely relate to that.
Yeah. So another, prevalent misconception or myth that we have heard of is, and which is, at personal level also we have experienced in our day-to-day lives, is that sometimes women with themselves feel, they experience this imposter syndrome, that, maybe I'm not as good enough, or maybe, that apathy of self-doubt that they have, right? And in fact, there was some survey which was conducted by American Life Poll, which suggested that more than half of the working women, around 55%, felt this way. So, Nivedita, what is your opinion on this? How do you think? Because sometimes this self-doubt thing is something, which, tarnishes their eventual, whatever they are thinking of themselves, that image that they create of themselves. So, what is your opinion on this?
This is such a relevant question. I have been there, done that. Yeah. But again, nothing about this is gender specific. In my early days, I had a lot of self-doubt. I felt like, am I good enough? Am I able to do this? So that resulted in me putting long hours at work. I wanted to know everything possible. I wanted to do everything possible. But then over time, I realized I can't do it forever, right? I need to limit the number of things that I can do. So we all get into this phase where we want to be on top of everything. We want to know everything that is possible. But it is not sustainable. Some part of it is passion, some part of it is self-doubt. Over times, I have changed. I had changed with all the feedback that I got. And I realized doing this is no longer scalable. I only have 24 hours a day, out of which I need to sleep 8 hours. 8 hours I need for myself. So I can only work these many hours in a day, right? It's up to me to make it happen. And many times when I try to do too many things, let's say if I attend too many meetings in a day, every meeting is a context switch. Beyond a point, I might not be adding any productive value in a meeting. Beyond a point, I might not be able to think through. And as we grow in our career, what skill is really important is the thought clarity that we bring in. And to have the thought clarity, it's important that we have some dedicated time for ourselves, which means that could be just 2 or 3 things that we do on our own. And we focus a lot of time just to do those things. So this has helped me become confident over time. And people around me have also made me realize it's just about doing few things, but doing it really well, than be like jack of all trades or Jill of all trades. So that has helped me. I have become confident over time. But many times I also think that maybe it's okay to have that to an extent, because I don't feel complacent over time. And I look around me, I have this 360-degree view. I'm like more informed when I make decisions. I know the pitfalls, etc. But then it's good to have balance of both. Like we said earlier, trust yourself, but also validate.
Yeah. That's true. I think, just being there and actually being there, that if you're contributing, that we need to identify those areas where you're actually putting in some effort, or basically you're adding some value to it. So I feel that those are the areas which we need to identify when investing our time as well. So I think, you call it out rightly.
And there's one more myth, right? Sometimes we're all in meetings and we think that, I need to speak in this meeting. This is how I decided, right? This is how people judge me. That is not true. It's about the value addition that we all do. It's not about being physically present in a meeting.
Yeah, I think that is something that, people at all stages of their career, they do this thing because when we enter fresh into this corporate world, we are encouraged to speak up our minds. But, sometimes it's hard to identify the places where you're just, speaking up or, you're adding some value to it. So there is a very fine line between these two. But identifying those areas is something that, one should really work on. I agree,
It's a journey.
It's a journey. Yes.
It's also about which stage you are in, right? At times, speaking up helps you build confidence, courage, but then over a period of time, it's about value add. Like when you speak up, are you really at?
Right. So another and probably the last myth that we are going to be talking about is that sometimes, not many, but some people have this stereotypical notion that women are not as, skilled when it comes to technical work. So, and that is pretty evident from if we see, the percentage of women in the, higher tech-related positions versus the men which are there in the same position. So, Nivedita, you have been among those few women who are working at the top tier at Intuit. So how has your experience been so far? And definitely we would agree that this is definitely a myth. That's why we have all these amazing women at those positions today. So we would want to have your take on this myth.
Firstly, this is so not true.
Yeah.
Such a trigger to hear that women are not as skilled as men. Be it accountability or technical acumen, ownership or driving things end to end, women do it as good as men do. We give the same task to women, we give the same task to men, we see similar outcomes.
Right.
Now think about it right from college, like writing entrance exams, getting through colleges, acing in academics, cracking interviews, landing the job, and going for promotion. It's the same process for all. The same entrance exam, same interview for everyone, same promo process for everyone.
Yeah.
But people tend to believe this. Okay, I would not want to get into why people want to believe it. But next time when someone says this is where I want to stand up and ask them, why are you saying what are you saying?
Yeah.
Nevertheless, coming back. So, what I have seen over time is some of the amazing mentors that I have had are women. Some of the engineers that I rely upon in my team are women. And I don't rely on them just because I am a woman and it's easy for me to talk to another woman. No, these are the people, even the men in my team or even the leadership who are men rely upon. So there is nothing gender specific about this. Again, the reason why we don't see so many women in tech at different levels is primarily because of the lack of support system. Maybe we have support system at the office. We may not have similar support system on the house front, right? So I'm sure a society will also evolve. Like Jharna just talked about her experience, how office space has evolved over time, right? How it has changed so much over years, and how this myths or biases no longer exist at the office space. I'm sure our society will also evolve over time, and we will definitely see, maybe in just another 2-3 years, we'll see more of women in tech. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, right. I think that like we should give some credit to our society also. We can't say that it's not evolving. It has been evolving, but it's a process, as we have called out, right? So it is going to take time, and that's why we are here today to bust some myths also.
So let's just move into the fun section. We have a game called Hey Alexa, where we'll be giving you a bunch of words, and you need to ask Alexa the right kind of questions so that Alexa responds with that word. So let's start with the first word. Who wants to go first?
Okay. So the first word for you, Jharna, is panda. So basically, you'll have to ask this Alexa a couple of questions so that it responds with this word.
Who does Kung Fu best?
This might answer your question. Here is question and answer by Mattel Blind. Can the soul die?
Okay. Which animal which animal has white and black spots?
Dalmatian dog.
Oh gosh, shucks, I'm so bad at this. Okay, pass it on, yeah.
Maybe you can do this.
Which animal from China is popular?
Here's something I found on reference.com. The most famous animal native to China is the giant panda.
Yes!
In Chinese culture for at least 1,000 years.
Okay.
The second word would be McDonald's.
Jharna is already thinking about that.
Which fast food chain can I go to get some burgers and french fries?
From Colombia.edu. Five Guys is a popular fast food chain.
I think we should say in India.
Do I try?
Which fast food chain has all their items starting with mech?
From oldest.org. KFC is the
Really?
Okay, so our next word would be watch.
What is Rado known for?
From Wikipedia.org, radar is a radio location spacecraft, missiles, ships, vehicles, and also to map and
Do I try?
Oh, this one Jharna was prepared.
Pick another brand. Okay.
sorry.
What is Rolex known for?
Rolex SA is a Swiss watch design
Yes.
and based in Geneva, Switzerland. Founded in 1960.
So as we move towards the closure of this amazing episode of NextGen Talks, Jharna and Nivedita, we would like to know one piece of advice that you have for our audience, who aspire to excel in their respective domains, breaking the societal stereotypes.
Don't try to do everything yourselves. Know what you must do. Focus on 2 or 3 things that only you can do, and work your best towards it. So be passionate, work hard, take pride.
Yeah.
For me, I think I'll summarize it in 3 points. The first one would be self-belief. I think focusing on your own self-belief. And I think it's a continuous journey. It's different at different stages in your life, but continuously focusing on self-belief while also being grounded, humble, because you need to get that feedback to work on yourself, but focus on self-belief at all stages in your life. That's one. The second one would be surround yourself with amazing people, because that's what shapes you to who you are today. make sure you're surrounded by people with the right mindset, who support you, who are invested in you. Be a part of an organization that is progressive. Just being in that right environment, because both personally, in your personal space, your friends, family, your partner, very important, your who you choose as your partner, and the kind of organization you are and the kind of people that you interact with. I think all of this shapes you to who you are. So choosing that, and I think we all have a choice with that. So choosing that. And the last thing I would say is just be a giver, because we all are shaped by people who are invested in us. So it's also important to give back. To give back abundantly, you will receive abundantly. Say that.
I think it's rightly said out also. Your vibe attracts your tribe. So it's all about first, it's prioritize yourself, and then the world will follow you. So I think this brings us to the end of this amazing episode. We personally had an amazing time with both of you. So would you like to share your experience about this shoot?
So for me, it's been a lot of fun. I was nervous for sure. I was like, how's the shoot going to be? But you all made it lots of fun, and it was really nice. And I got to, learn so much from Nivedita, though I've known her for a long time. But just hearing her stories has been really nice. So thank you for having us over.
Thank you. Well, thank you for agreeing to do this. Yeah.
This was so much fun and impromptu. To start with, I was nervous. I'm like, I didn't prepare. What am I going to say? Once I finish this sentence, what am I going to say? But felt so comfortable. Yeah. It was so nice to hear from you, Jharna.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you.